Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. I almost forgot to unmute myself. So, um, that was a game. Uh, how are we feeling? Sorry, guys. We are having technical issues. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
Uh, okay, perfect. Sorry, my this game has this start is about as well as that team ended. So, uh, I opened our call with Ian and Laura. What can I say a certain thing, and do you think it would get me in trouble? And at the end of the day, Ian said it would get me in trouble, so I'm not gonna say it. But I am gonna say hello, welcome to the stream. The Habs are ruining my life, and they are ruining my guests' lives as well. I've got Evan Boer and Laura Saba from Locked On Canadians on with me. And they decided to watch this game, instead of closing the TV because they love me very much, and I really appreciate it. How are you feeling, guys?
This team has disappointed us recently. I think to me the false hope is the worst part. I was all set to have
Yes.
ups and downs, but I thought it would be a little bit less down, brief up and then down. I thought it would be more ups and downs, throughout the season. It would have been more fun. It would have been a bit more exciting. What really
Mhm.
kills me about this game is I think the Canadians played well. They just ended up shooting themselves in the foot in a couple of different ways. Which had they not done that, I really did think that they had a chance of winning this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Ian?
agree. I mean, the numbers looked good. The possession numbers, the scoring chances, expected goals, all of that stuff looks really great for the Canadians in this game. But maybe I'm being fickle, but I do not care.
Yeah.
It did not really change the way that I thought they played in this game. It wasn't
Mhm.
comforting to know that their expected goals were higher. Their
Yeah.
actual goals were terrible. They didn't for the second time in a row on home ice, they've been shut out. They
Mhm.
got shut out by the Wild, and then they went on the road and they came home and they got shut out again. So
Yeah.
it's there's a lot going on. There's a lot going wrong. Um, but I, it just sort of feels like, there's not there's not a ton to hang your hat on in this game other than some numbers that may make people feel better, but they do not make me feel better about how this went at all.
No, no, I agree. So we're going to be breaking this down into periods as we always do. The first bit, we want to talk about the top line because we've all got feelings about it. The second bit, we're going to talk a little bit about what this means for the future for this team, not the long-term future, but like the right now future. um the future where hint I think some of the players I love are going to be leaving this team. And the third period we're going to be talking a little bit about, so I was really pissy online as I tend to be. And I was so mad at the coaching staff, but I hear other people, and other people think that it's a execution problem by the players. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's start period one with the thing that is pissing us all off so bad.
Yeah, Laura, do you want to take this one first, or do you want to let me yell and scream about this really quick?
I really want to let you yell and scream about this really quick.
Okay. The top line just isn't good enough.
No.
We went from conversations about Nick Suzuki being a proper number one center in the league, and I do think ultimately he will be that. And he has been that for more than he hasn't this season. The problem for me is that we're watching them go into, play against all of these other teams and watching their top players perform, and the Canadians' top players are not performing. And not only are they not performing, they're not exactly leading by example. The
Mhm.
morning skate on the optional practice that the Canadians had on the 7th on Friday. Uh, the only one of those three that went to the optional practice was Cole Caulfield. Slavkovsky did not go, and Suzuki did not go. It's kind of irritating to see them play poorly and then not show up for a practice, right? When
Yeah.
we keep talking about how, they haven't had any time to practice, they're not practicing, they need to practice, and then they have an optional practice and they don't show up. Like I get that's their right in the CBA, and the Canadians cannot enforce a mandatory practice on a day like that. That's how those days work, by the way. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
familiar, is they can't, they cannot force them to practice on days where they are not eligible to. But it's an entirely frustrating unit right now because we know what they can do, and instead all we're seeing is them fail to cross the blue line, and when they do cross the blue line, just turn the puck over and go back the other way. They totally disinterested by the end of the game, as we all were.
But we don't get paid to do that.
No, we don't. In a way, we
I mean,
do. But
yeah,
the three of us do.
yes,
Yeah,
but we don't get paid the kind of money that they do.
I don't know. You should look at your contract. Mine's pretty good. No, look, I just think that there's no excuse for when they go and play Tampa on Sunday afternoon. I don't think that should be a line. And, maybe that's alarmist, maybe that's extremist. I don't see a reality where it matters at all to keep that line together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, they have chemistry. Really? Because it's going so great right now? Like, what they need to, I think they need to find a different look.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, by the way. I don't know if that means your first line is like Caulfield,
just
Evans, and
Josh
Armstrong.
Anderson, baby.
Just anything else.
demote them at random. Just do that. Like the entire game, just keep demoting them just randomly. Here's the really funny thing is that I feel like maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago on our show we were talking about how when Ivan Demidov comes in he has to play on the second line because he can't break up that first line. Well, right now I really want to break up that first line. I really don't think that any of them deserves to play on it. And here's the big question I have is Nick Suzuki playing through something again? Because every time he does that, this is what we see. And granted, I want to see a lot more from the other two on that line. I don't want to like lay the blame all on Nick Suzuki or whatever injury he might potentially have, but it's making me a little bit nervous that not only did he not show up to the practice, but like this kind of is giving the same vibe to me as it did when, the last time he was playing through something. I don't know, in service of an Iron Man streak. I have no idea. Like what, it's like hockey
Can I just say
mentality or
something
whatever.
about that? So,
Yeah.
I'm a bit to be harsh about this. And I'm not sure if I will mean it by the end of the day, because as you know, I am a Nick Suzuki defender. However, so there's two ways of thinking here, because it's not like they have a lot of options to not play Nick Suzuki.
Fair.
But also, at some point, is it not selfish to play through something that you are not playing through very well? But I hesitate to say that because it's not like if he doesn't play, there's a replacement that they can just put up there. Kirby Doc is only now getting it together, and it's because of Josh Anderson, question mark. And, Jake Evans can't be on the first line. Who
No.
else is left? Christian Dvorak? God. 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 Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh
just
my
the thought of that's
God.
bad. That should never happen. Just think of the calamity that would need to take place in order for Christian Dvorak to be the number 1 center on any National Hockey League team, let alone this one. The one
Yeah.
thing I'll say about the potential for a Nick Suzuki injury right now is when they do have practices and they announce therapy days or maintenance days, he's never on that list. He's
Mhm.
never missing a practice for, because he's banged up and going to get treatment for something.
So he's
Mhm.
making the choice not to show up.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
And I don't like to say, like, I'm not questioning his character. I think Nick Suzuki has a lot of what Patrick Laine has, in that they are both very cool and calculated players and people.
Mhm.
Just like they're low body temperature guys. And when it goes well, things are great because it's like, man, they make it look so easy. They're doing, they're scoring. They're, Nick Suzuki very crafty with the puck. And when it doesn't, they look like they don't care.
Yeah.
And that's not what's happening, right? Like they
No.
obviously care.
Yeah.
They're professional athletes wearing one of the most storied jerseys or sweaters in the history of the sport. Like
They're
they
just
just
not
care.
dramatic.
Yeah, they just like it's not like Kirby Doc in this
Mhm.
game towards the end was getting rather pissy. And honestly, I kind of hated seeing it.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like I forget what goal went in. I think it was the Jack Hughes one, and he's barking at the referee as if a power play would have helped at all.
Mhm.
But like Nick Suzuki's not that kind of player. He's not that kind of guy who's gonna get angry and start slamming his stick and yelling, right? Like there are guys on the team who will do that. He's not that guy.
Yeah, and there's a place for
I don't
that, but
I
I
don't
don't
know.
necessarily know if it's at the top of your lineup in terms of
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah, because otherwise you have like Kucherov, right? Who the second anything goes bad, his body language is just the worst in the sport.
It's like everybody in the NHL has to pay for his bad mood.
yeah,
Including
yeah,
his
no kidding.
trainers, who he threw his gloves at in the
Dude,
Stanley Cup
remember
final.
that?
I
Oh my
do.
God.
I do. That was bad. That was bad.
If
Sorry,
he
I like
played for
how
like
he's just
if he
getting
played for like
strays.
a
He's
bad
catching strays.
team, yeah, if
Oh
he
my
played
God,
for a
yeah.
bad team, we would never have stopped talking about that. It would be a story every single day until he left the league.
No. No.
If it wasn't one of the
Um,
golden child franchises.
Yeah.
man, Tampa. Fuck that team. Are we
We have to
more than
see them
5 minutes in?
tomorrow.
Yes, we are. Okay, we're good. I was like, yeah. Man, I think the thing that's been most disappointing, is that like you said, Laura, like the hope. The hope. And I think what made the hope so hopey is that it lasted over like quite a few games. Like if I'd seen
It was
them play
almost 2
really
months.
well, yeah, yeah. And if it was just 5 games even then I'm like, I'm not believing in them. I sorry, I'm not. Um, and I apparently shouldn't have even after like 2 months because they things just went downhill so fast. Now, let's be completely honest and fair in that there are other factors to this.
Mhm.
Uh, for example, the state of Utah, um, being full of terrible drivers, one of whom hit our precious baby boy, Emil Heinemann, um, and apparently was a government employee of some sort.
Yeah.
And the second being the ice at the Bell Center and poor Caden Gooley, skates being sharp apparently is something that we should be mad at. And the
Yeah, huge is
rest of the
true.
teams, the rest of the
Yeah.
teams in the East, especially the Atlantic, have just decided that they want to play good. So I think there's a whole bunch of factors here that aren't necessarily in the Canadians' control. It's just that the things that are in the Canadians' control, they aren't doing well. That's the frustrating bit.
Yeah, and to me that's really it, is that a team that's good doesn't really have to do scoreboard watching. And a
Yeah.
team that, if the Canadians, if they played some bad games and won them, I would have a little bit more faith. But all I've ever seen is them either win when they play well or play badly, and so there's never a situation where they find a way to win. The
Mhm.
words like finding a way to win, I'm not seeing it in this season. And I, it feels like when they're not able to be dominant, they're not able to play hockey at all, which is really,
Yeah.
really concerning. But for me, like what I don't like, and what Ian has alluded to when Caden Gooley got injured, is you could see it in their body language. They thought the season was over. So when I see them come out this game, like playing like their season isn't over, in my head I'm like, what happened? Like what happened? What made you make the decisions that you made that caused those goals to go in, right?
Mhm.
Why couldn't you put something together to make the puck go in? Because I've been complaining, and I know Ian has as well, about the passing for the past week and a bit, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought it started out really well.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, it's like they remembered how to do it. I got so excited. And it just like they just allowed themselves to deflate. And they keep doing that. And that's the part that's bothering me. Like if they come out against Tampa tomorrow on the second day of a back to back, which let's not even talk about the schedule. The second day of a back-to-back, if they come out and they scare Tampa, to me, I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe it wasn't a joke. Like maybe they weren't playing tricks on us in January. Maybe they weren't lying. But right now, it just feels like they were being cruel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second half of a back-to-back thing, Montreal is actually very good at them this year. I think now they're 6-4-1 in the second game of a back-to-back. And on Sunday, when Tampa comes to town, Tampa will also be on the second half of a back-to-back with travel. They played in Detroit. I believe they beat Detroit at the same time Montreal was losing. But they're gonna be the same situation. There's no kind of excuse for
Yeah.
not coming out and having, and outplaying a team like that. I know that couple months, where they were great. The Florida trip of at New Year's was a million years ago. Like that is a different version of this team. The I really I don't know which version of this team I'm supposed to believe is the real one. Because the Canadians we're seeing now are the ones we saw in like October and November and most of December.
Yeah.
And then we got a couple months where they were pretty good and then not good again. And I know people are saying, well, they're tired. Everyone's tired. Everyone has the same compressed schedule. Everyone has the same stuff. Those other teams find a way to win. All the teams that they need to beat in the Eastern Conference are winning. The Islanders are winning. The
Mhm.
Sabres are winning. They're going to pass Montreal soon at this rate.
Jesus.
The Red Wings have gotten themselves back into it. Tampa's gotten themselves back into it. Boston's still hanging around. Ottawa's going to be a playoff team this year. Like
oh.
Oh.
yeah, it stinks. But I said this on our show, Laura. You mentioned scoreboard watching. I don't do that. I'm not doing that with this team, because if this team was going to make it, it was going to be on their own merit. It wasn't going to be
Yeah.
because somebody lost. I found that like, oh well, they lost, so Montreal's 1 point back in the play. Who cares? Like, win the games and you'll make it. Don't worry about
Yeah.
that other stuff. And now we're going to be scoreboard watching for a different reason the rest of the way.
So I scoreboard watch strictly for hater purposes.
That's fine.
Just to have the joy of being like, oh, the Senators finally lost.
Yeah.
Who is it? The Islanders who went on the hot streak? I don't know if they're still on it, but my God, I was I'll take listen, I'll take some joy out of that, and then, like, obviously for the Avs, I'll also be scoreboard watching, but at least that team has given me something to watch, right? Like, this
Yeah.
team just has been incredibly cruel. Vaguely Sophie says, "Sounds like Kay is destroying something off camera." Yeah, I had a moment, smashing a few things, but, speaking of our lovely chat, really appreciate you guys showing up. I know this game isn't the best to watch it post game for, but I promise it'll be worth it for my lovely guests and for me being as lost as this team is right now. For those who joined us a little bit later, this is Ian and Laura from Locked On Canadians, and they are there for you every single weekday. They put out a podcast. It's usually right, like unless the team finishes their game at like 1 a.m. It'll be out at midnight, and because I don't sleep, I usually catch it right away. But one fun thing that these guys do is a trivia segment, which is really cool. And me not sleeping would give me an advantage on that trivia if I had any sort of retention of facts. The one and only trivia, you guys, that I remember was something to do with Armenia. You guys asked about, like, Winnipeg and, like, who played with Line A and, like, something about that, and I was like, "That's Armia," but by then, I hadn't that was, like I watched it when I woke up, and I was like, "Why did I sleep?" So,
Yeah. I think that
lesson,
question
don't
was
sleep.
about the Steve Mason trade. The
That's
Steve Mason trade where
hilarious.
Montreal got him and bought him out, and what did they get for it? I think it was because they got
Yeah.
Yoel Armia in that deal. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a fun one. I
Yeah.
like really sicko trivia questions. I'll when I have a good one at the beginning of the episode, I'll tell Laura. I'm like, I'm in my bag on this one. This is the best trivia question I've ever had.
What I love about Armia, not what I love about Armia. We love him. We shat on him for an entire season and a half, and then he came back. But doesn't Armia feel like, despite the fact that we got him from Winnipeg, doesn't he feel like he was born to be a Montreal Canadian? Like,
Yes.
doesn't he feel part of the Canadiens lore?
Yes.
And now he's gonna get traded to like Dallas or something.
Boo, please no.
I
The thing about
know.
Yoel Armia is he looks like I can't quite place where, but like from somewhere out of the past. Not like the past, but somewhere out of the past. And because the Habs are such an old team, I'm like, oh, this guy has been like there since like they moved to the Bell Center. I'm like, he just looks like he belongs.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a pleasure because especially because speaking of lines, that line, despite we'll talk about line A after that, but separately, the duo, the line that is essentially a duo of Evans and Armia, they're still doing Evans and Armia things. I think that they're pushing the play as well as they can. There's which is extra impressive because Patrick Laine on that line. Listen, I understand why Marty feels like he can't promote him to another line, or he didn't anyways when he first changed those lines. But at a certain point, you're not using your assets correctly. Um, Listen, I get it. I get it. Marty wants to send a message, but when this game is in reach and your first line hasn't been performing very well, maybe you switch it up. Maybe you just switch it up. Just see, just look. Because I just don't think that he just looks invisible out there. I don't think he's been particularly bad defensively down there. I don't think he's been visible either. I think you've like kind of neutered him in a way. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
I think the problem right now is that he's not a child, and it feels like Marty is is behaving towards him in the "I need to teach him a lesson" way. He's not a child; he's a veteran at this point. I know, he's only 26 or whatever, but the Canadians are super young, right? Like this is supposed to be one of the leaders, one of the adults in the room. So it's not just about harnessing his abilities. It's also just about like this, he doesn't need that, right? Like he needs something else because
Hmm.
I understand up until the point where Marty says he isn't helping this team right now. I agree with you up until there. So my solution is to put him somewhere, anywhere that
Where he
isn't
can't
like on
help
the
the
top
team.
two lines.
Yeah. Can I ask
You know?
Marty a question with regards to that? Okay, I don't think he's helping the team right now. Okay, list who is. Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think the list is Josh Anderson, Alex Newhook, Lane Hudson, end of list.
Jake Evans.
Like, and Jake Evans and Yoel Armia, end of
Yeah.
list. Like, that's
You
you're
11s, I
six
think.
guys.
Yo,
Six
11.
guys out of 21, 22 players on this team. Six guys are helping your team. That's what I find so annoying about this Line thing. Is like his slump is coming at the same time everybody else also sucks. So it's like he's wearing a lot of the stuff that I think should be pointed at the first line. Like
Mhm.
Or
I
on
thought
anyone else. Like on
anyone
Matheson.
else. Yeah, we're not doing Mike today. Mike was fine, okay? I'm not doing Mike Matheson right now. But I just think like Laine was making some good stick plays. He was taking the puck away from guys. He's very good, like getting behind somebody and lifting their stick and taking the puck away from them. He's very good at those things. It's his confidence. His confidence is shot right now, and I think Marty knows that. But also, if you know that, why send him to the fourth line? Like that
Mhm.
seems counterproductive. But then also keep him
And
on the first
cruel.
power play unit. Yeah,
Yeah.
but still keep him on the first power play unit, which also sucks, breaking down his confidence even further.
Mhm.
Like I kind of like this is actually it seems like a decent opportunity to put him with some offense, like more offensively minded players. Not to say that Yoel Armia and Jake Evans aren't, because they're two of
Apparently
the
they are.
best players right now. But like maybe that needs a shakeup. Maybe Nick
Yeah.
Suzuki needs to play with Patrick Laine for a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what to do there.
Mm.
My best case scenario for Line is he goes to Four Nations and rips it up and comes back and feels so much better.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
but who knows if that'll happen.
I think Patrick Laine really lives and dies by where his head is at.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I so one of the things that Danny Joe 22 says that yeah, but it's his whole body language. The same thing Doc got absolutely slaughtered for. Um, I have I'm not sure how I feel about that. What do you what are your thoughts?
So I think the big thing with Doc was that he didn't come in with us knowing that he had mental health issues. So I think Patrick Laine got a little bit more rope on that one, just because of that. And is like,
Mhm,
is it his lack of confidence in the game, or is it, is he dealing with stuff? So
mhm,
for me, like personally, I think that the other thing too was that Kirby Doc's injury was so much more devastating in terms of man games lost, right?
mhm, mhm,
Whereas with Patrick Laine, he came back way ahead of schedule, or weeks ahead of schedule, I should say, not way, like weeks ahead,
mhm,
couple weeks ahead of schedule.
mhm.
So I think that people's expectations of Patrick Laine were maybe a little bit higher,
Mhm.
and so we were willing to give him a little bit more grace. Whereas with Kirby Doc, it was like, can he even walk now? Like it was like the anxiety surrounding that was a little bit more. But I do agree with Danny in that we have to treat them fairly. We have to be fair on each player when they're both playing bad.
Mhm, mhm.
We have to
But
do
the
that.
thing there is, Laura,
Um,
we've heard about how at the start of the season when both Slav and Doc were playing like poo poo, um, and honestly, I think maybe Doc was playing a little bit like poo poo we saw that like Slav got demoted first. We saw that Slav apparently had a talking to from Kent Hughes like first, it's just it's about the player individually, right? Like I think the reason why Kent Hughes didn't talk to Doc in that way was because I didn't think Doc could I don't think and I don't think Kent Hughes either thought either that Doc, where he was in that place, could handle it. So
Mhm.
it's just really, I think, that like meme that's like people be saying things so definitively. I don't know, man, it depends. Like I think that's kind of what it is. Trinka says the Line also saw multiple doctors before eventually deciding to not have the surgery. The first doctors all recommended surgery, so maybe he's still dealing with something off and on. Danny Joe also adds, true, but I think he got rope because of his one-timers. His 5v5 has been poor in all but one game. Yeah, but you get to have rope because you have that one-timer, right? Like,
Right.
for
yeah.
example,
Yeah.
I give this example all the time. Very often I'll be watching Nate McKinnon, uh, and I will see him in the defensive zone, and I'm like, man. But the thing is he's Nate McKinnon. He does everything so well on the other side that you give him that. You say, "Who fucking cares?" Right? Like, you don't care. And, like, of course, it's not the same level for Line, and it's not he doesn't do the same like, I don't wanna overstate how how rough sometimes defensive, McKinnon can be. Like, I'm not saying that that swing is so heavy or that, like, extreme. I just think that sometimes when you have a weapon like that, you get some rope, Like you get that's a goal. A goal is a goal is a goal, right? Like no matter what you're doing otherwise, you're getting the goal.
Yeah, and no one cared that he wasn't scoring or playing well at 5-on-5 when he was burying power play goals left and right. No one cared
Yeah. Everyone's
because
talking about how he saved the team.
yeah, how, he stepped in and the power play immediately woke back up and he was just banging home the same goal every night. No one cared. But now that that's not going in, and that's not going in for a variety of reasons, but, that's not going in not because Laine's playing poorly on the power play. They're not able to get the puck to him anymore. Like,
Mhm.
they got it to him a couple times against New Jersey, and one of them he bombed that one timer off of Jake Allen, and Slavkovsky
I
could have
like
put
seeing I like
yeah,
seeing that him going with that so decisively. I think that was we didn't
yeah,
see that last game.
right, because when he was getting those opportunities, he was catching it and dusting it off and then shooting it, and by that time, the lane is clogged, the goalie's over, like, it didn't you weren't able to
Everyone
score, but
knows
on
what
that
he's about to do.
Exactly. But on that one against New Jersey, Slav had like almost an empty net to put it into and missed. So,
Mm.
it's a game of inches. I think what's lost in a lot of the play over the last little while is how few bounces the Canadians have gotten, how few things have gone their way.
Mhm.
When on that, the run that they were on, a lot of stuff was going their way. The one thing that wasn't was the officiating. That's still not great. But when you have a power play that's as bad as yours is currently, I don't really care. Like I
I
see
don't
these
want
guys.
it.
No, I see fans like complaining about officiating, and I'm just like, yeah, for what? Like, what do you mean? Oh, you want to watch that again? We're gonna see Christian Dvorak on the power play again. You want to see that? Why? That's nuts.
Why do you want to see that? Sorry, I need to confirm something because I'm hearing that Sidney Crosby is being replaced by Mark Scheifele for the Four Nations.
Excuse me?
Um, I need to fact check this. I'm sorry. I don't mean
No,
to
this is
derail, but
breaking.
excuse
No,
me.
this
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 better be a rumor, okay? Because I am hearing
he's
this better
placed
Someone
be
in
on
your ear just told you
alert.
that?
what?
He
Uh,
was placed on alert. So if
so
Sid can't go, they're replacing him with Mark Scheifele? Question mark?
I
The
okay.
same player? That
Yeah, they're the
guy?
same guy. Yeah, they're the same guy. I don't
Oh, this
look.
is it. Darren Dreger said that he thinks Team Canada has put Mark Scheifele on alert this weekend in case Sidney Crosby can't make Four Nations due to injury or if someone else gets hurt. Scheifele has had a phenomenal season. He's earned the opportunity. I'm not cheering for this man.
No,
No.
I will be wearing my Patrick Laine Finland jersey, and we will be rooting that way. Have a
I
nice 2 weeks, Sam. I don't know. Like,
tournament winner goal by Jake Armia, shorthanded? Question
let's
mark?
go, dude.
Yes,
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 1000%.
that's what that's the canon now. That's what we're writing. Our
I
fanfic,
fear
not
he might
canon,
need
fanfic.
Jake Evans in his pocket, though. We should, put a Finland jersey on Jake Evans and put him there,
Yeah, he
because
needs
they're
to get his
taking
dual
their hits,
citizenship.
eh? Sorry?
Yeah. I said he needs to get his dual citizenship and go play for Finland. It's only fair.
Exactly. Oh, they should, they should, they should, they should get married and then Jake Evans can have.
So that he can be Jake Armia.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
know what Yoel Armia's partner. I think
Wife
her
will
name is
feel about
Emily.
that, but
Yeah,
but
I
we
feel
need
like
to
there's
get
like a
Jake
whole
Evans.
bunch of
We need him citizenship. Like, yes, Jake has a wife.
yes.
Yes, Ramia has a wife. But we do what we need to here, folks. Team Finland is losing guys. Like, Ranton
Okay.
is out. Ranton is out. Terwainen got hurt. Like, they're losing guys. You know who they need to replace him? Just like Shifley can replace Crosby? Jake Evans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if Shifley can be as good as Crosby, then Jake Evans can be a Finn. Um, I just think for me in my head, I don't know what they're gonna do during Four Nations. Maybe they go on vacation. I don't know. Are the Canadians allowed to talk to their teams? I know the bye week they're not, but I was thinking that
Sure.
Army is having like a bad game, and then he sees Jake Evans in the stands, and then all of a sudden his game turns around. That's the
He
fanfic
has like
I'm
an
writing.
Armia jersey on,
Yeah.
and when Armia looks in the stands, he turns around and points at it. Like,
We have to see it, Jake Evans. If you're watching, cancel whatever vacation you were gonna go on, and please watch
whatever
all the
lovely
Finland
thing you were gonna
games.
do with your lovely wife, cancel it, buddy. We
Yes,
got
yeah,
assignment for you.
yes. Down
It's
south,
like,
Europe, cancel all that.
do you remember that video? I think it was Oliver Bjorkstrand on Columbus being told that he was picked to go to the All-Star game like 2 days before it happened, and like
Yeah.
he had like a vacation, and you could just see the disappointment on his face. Like, oh, cool, that's awesome. I get where it's in Toronto. Awesome. I guess I'll
Oh,
just
so
cancel
cool,
my
dude.
my
Yeah,
beach
that's really
vacation.
yeah.
Oh, cancel the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. You know what? We can
Anyway,
get into the All-Star game like in the fourth period.
yeah.
People are welcome to put questions in the chat closer to the fourth period because they do get lost in the chat. But we are going to be doing that. You know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. So let's talk about something else sad with what this means for the rest of the season. But first, I'm going to tell you guys what Trinka says. Trinka said, "Oh my God." And then he got picked last at the draft. I was there. It was awkward. So imagine you cancel your vacation for that. Come on.
Brutal. Just to be embarrassed in an arena, like, come on.
100%.
That's
100%.
unbelievable.
Okay, so I'm going to move us over to Andrew. He is going to tell you about Inchoo Bijoux, and we will be right back. And I will remember to unmute myself, guys.
But Inchoo Bijoux is amazing. You should go. They did a setting for my sister, custom. Yeah,
That's really
long time ago.
cool.
Yes.
That's really cool.
We are so excited to tell you about our new partner here at Game Over Montreal, a delightfully witchy goth and glam jewelry store making handcrafted art that varies from subtle silver to gold pieces to glamorous bespoke. Inchoo Bijoux is more than just a company. They've built a community through advocacy and a welcoming attitude that has made them an institution here in Montreal. Located in the historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, Inchoo Bijoux also runs seasonal themed markets called Maleficarum Market, or Marché Maleficarum en français, where artisans from all over get together and showcase and sell their wares. Drop by 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team, or head to inchoobijoux.com and enhance your style. The next Maleficarum Market will be on the weekend of February 8th and 9th. We'll see you there. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out.
Okay, we're back. Yay. Nothing happened just now. The
Everything
perils
went
of
smoothly.
streaming live. Again, I am matching the Canadiens freak as I shouldn't, but I did. Claire says black screen, very appropriate after that game. Okay, we're
Yeah.
back now, I think, guys. I am checking in on the stream. Okay, so I thought the biggest of our problems was that I forgot to change periods while we were in the ad, but no, just proved myself wrong. So, second period, I think we want to talk a little bit about what this game slash perhaps this weekend could mean slash means for this team's rest of the season. Thoughts?
So we had said that if the Canadiens didn't get 6 out of 8 points this week, they were going to be sellers no matter what. I still think they're going to be sellers. I think the hope was lost maybe about 4 games ago. To me, it's sad, but I'm only willing to part with these players on the condition that the Habs bring them back. Which might not be likely. We've seen it happen sometimes, but it's usually that's not what happens.
Yeah.
That player ends up staying, especially on a team where they do really well. That player ends up staying. They become a deadline rental, and then they stay at the place they perform well in the playoffs for a reason, and the team decides to offer, or they go somewhere else entirely.
Yeah. They go to market.
Yeah. So I feel like Jake Evans probably would be the bigger loss. But I'm just very sad. I'm very sad to say goodbye to Yoel Armia, and not so sad to say goodbye to Christian Dvorak. Sorry. I don't.
You're the thing with the Dvorak part is you're assuming someone would want him.
I know.
If we don't want him, who's going to be falling over themselves to get Christian Dvorak at over $4 million? I have a hard time believing he's going anywhere. March 8th, he will be a Montreal Canadian.
What if he's what if he's part of a package that somebody else wants? By which I mean we should somebody else
hold Jake Evans.
By a package somebody else wants, what I mean by that is David Savard and Christian Dvorak. They go someplace together.
And you don't even
it's
have
gonna
to
be
give
Chicago. It's gonna be Chicago.
You know who Christian Dvorak's line mate was in junior? He was on a line with Mitch Marner.
Mitch
So
Marner.
Toronto Maple Leafs, come get your man.
You know what? I read today that the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for a number 2C.
Yep.
They got him.
The amulet.
He wears a number 2. It's a perfect fit.
the amulet is not working, so John Tavares cannot do this on by himself. So you want a number 2 seat, you should call us. We have a Christian Dvorak for you,
Yeah,
Toronto.
one Easton Cowan,
Gently
please. Thank you.
used. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. Like, if you take these 2 guys, I don't even want anything in return. I just
We're
want
good.
Dvorak gone.
Yeah, future
We are so
considerations.
giving. It's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
I'm
That's the thing. It's generosity. It's
Yeah. I'm in the same place as Laura. I think they're sellers now. The
Mhm.
thing that's nice about that now is I think there are only a few designated sellers at this year's deadline, right? There's not a lot of them. It's really, at least in the East, it'll be Montreal, Pittsburgh, Philly, and Buffalo. And out West, Anaheim, Seattle, Nashville, Chicago, San Jose. Chicago's already kind of started to sell off. San Jose, I don't know what they have to sell off. So there's not a lot of them, but there's a lot of teams who are in the mix now. Like Columbus might add to stay in the race. Boston might add. The Islanders are on the way up. The Rangers are right there with the Canadiens, but they're too good of a roster to not try to go for it. So
Yeah.
I just think like the environment for them to sell has changed in the fact that they've fallen out of it. Not many teams have fallen out of it, and they have valuable assets other teams might want. So it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see what they do.
Mhm. So where do you think Jake Armia and that was not on purpose. Where
No,
do you
that
guys
was a
think Jake
natural one.
Armia is going? Where do you think Jake Armia is going, guys?
Well,
Together as a
yeah.
Armia's
package
going to
deal.
Dallas. We decided this a long time ago, early in the season. We were like, this guy is like, he screams Dallas Stars. That's where he's going.
You know the
Yeah.
meme that's like my favorite players have made me go places I wouldn't even go with a weapon. That's I don't want to go. I don't want to go to Dallas. Please. Please. Please.
Yeah, I just think Yoel Armia looks like a Dallas Star. Like I think it's because he's Finnish and they've had so much success with Finnish players with the same kind of skill set that Yoel Armia has. So that
That
has
has a
always
lot of
made
Finnish players. The Avs.
that's
Yeah.
true too.
They got a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And if they're not looking, I mean they're not thrilled with middle stat, so they're going to be looking for help down the middle. Not that Evans is a middle stat
I was
replacement,
gonna
but
say
yeah, he's not, but it's more depth at that position. He's
2C.
definitely not that kind of guy, but yeah, and Kent Hughes and well, it's not Joe Sakic now, it's McFarland, but they have a history of trades. They the trade that they made the year that they went to the Cup final and won it was the Arturi Lehkonen trade. So like there's a history there between those two teams. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, be
AJ
like, do you want a
Hafley.
Stanley Cup? Here's a guy.
Here's
Yeah.
a guy. Yeah, AJ Hafley of DNVR. We've been fighting in my DMs because he really wants Jake Evans. Apparently, I mean, it makes sense. It would make sense for a team. Honestly, any team that's kind of on the cusp and kind of wants like that not missing piece, because I don't think Jake Evans is the missing piece, but a piece of what makes a team successful. He's like, give him to us. And I'm like, I would listen, if it's gotta be anywhere, just like it was for Lucky, it's gotta be anywhere. I'd rather it be the Avs, but I think it's way more likely to be like the Minnesota Wild or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, man,
Yeah.
John Hines would love to get his hands on a defensive player like Jake Evans. Try to win every game 1-0.
Why would you make
cannot
him
stand that
miserable
team.
like that? I
Cannot
don't want
stand
that
that
for our
hockey
Jake
team.
Evans.
My God. That I
All
think
right, where's David Savard going? Columbus.
Edmonton. I think the Oilers will go after Savard. I think that makes a lot of sense.
that would actually make a lot of sense for them. Dallas Stars? Question mark.
Okay, so
No.
now we're kind of getting your barometer here. You don't want good players there, but they
No.
can have David Savard
They
and
can have
he'll try to just hug the wall with the puck in between his skates for 16 games. Like that's what'll happen.
But the David Savard masterclass is that one game, and I don't remember which one it was, where he was like
The Tampa game.
literally, yeah, the one where he's like literally on the ground against the
Yeah.
boards, Like, his head is uncovered, his entire body is uncovered. He would die to keep that puck against the wall.
He grabbed Kucherov's stick. He just reached out and held it for like the last 5 seconds of the game.
What are you
It
gonna do?
was
Call it?
so.
What are you gonna do?
It was,
Call it?
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
what are you gonna do? Call a penalty on me? There's 2 seconds left. Shut up. Yeah, that's the kind of guy you need in the playoffs, and I think he'll do well in a city like Edmonton, who does. They don't have a guy like that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be really fun. But yeah, that to me is the lasting David Savard memory, is him on the ground. Just, I mean, it was like he was wrestling and he was just trying to take someone he was trying to take the puck to the mat. Like that's
Like,
what
he
that
was
was.
making sure that, like, nobody was getting his shoulders pinned on the mat, like, he was just holding on. Man was literally on his side, curled up. That was beautiful.
Yeah, he was
Most of my
awesome.
memories of David Savard are him on the ground. Like, in some sort of way, he's down on the ice, like,
He's this
belly
generation's
down,
Hal Gill.
blocking. He is not. Listen, if David Savard could spend an entire shift literally just, like, army crawling, I think he would. Amy P says, "What if Savard goes to the island and needs to shave?" Trizak says,
No,
"Savard needs to go to Toronto." Now, I wouldn't do that to David Savard.
no, we did
No.
that already with. Did we trade? No, we didn't trade Edmondson to Toronto, but he did end up there.
Yeah.
We traded him to Washington, and then he ended up in Toronto, and it didn't go well for him there either.
Yeah.
You okay? Kay just got flashbanged by her computer.
I was like, it's the light calling Kay. This
I
time
was
it's
gonna
like-
say that. I think they're coming for me, guys. They're coming for me.
So yeah, we're less than a month away from the trade deadline. They have a month to get this figured out. They can make trades over the freeze too, or it's not even a freeze, just over 4 nations. They can make moves.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if stuff got done over the 4 nations. Not with players that are currently there, but maybe
Yeah.
a David Savard trade gets done while he has some time to rest. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think so. A point I did want to make, not just about where they go for the rest of the season, because we were talking about who's to blame, et cetera, is I think that this is a prime opportunity for the front office to take a week and just sit down and think about what the hell they're going to do. And then the next week, where they're actually not allowed to talk to the players, the coaching staff can come together and figure out how to fix this shit. Because I don't want to see more of this. I'm acknowledging that the Montreal Canadiens are not going to be in the mix. I can accept that, but I do not want to see more of this for the next 25 or whatever games that are left.
Yeah.
I want to see progress. I need to see progress because like this year would have been an entire waste if we didn't see some progress. And
Yeah.
that's it. Like, you give them grace. That first year we got lucky. They were terrible. They had injuries, blah, blah, blah. We got the first overall pick. That was luck. The second year, all right, it's a little bit of an advance. They got the 5th overall pick, right? The third year, what the hell are they doing getting the 5th overall pick? And then now we're trending towards a 4th year doing that. So for me, that's not acceptable. Like, no progress. That's zero progress. I'm not seeing things, and the little things that we're seeing on the ice that are improvements, they're not adding up to much. We're still angry at that first line. The second line is still pissing us off. Players are still not attaining the potential we want for them, other than Lane Hudson, who was doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, Caden Gooley. But,
Not anymore.
So they need to have their come to Jesus moment during the 4 nations, and then they have to start doing their battle plans during the bye week, because I do not want to see like from now to April of crap.
No, I can't. I just can't. I can't do it.
Do you know who their first game is coming out of 4 nations?
Ottawa.
It's in Ottawa. So for our sake, they cannot embarrass us. That cannot be something they do. That will shake the confidence of a lot of people in this rebuild. If okay, fine, you got the rest you wanted, everyone's rested, you have no more excuses, you better come back and win. And then they do that. That would be really disappointing to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Danny Joe says that you can see this year how hard that losing mentality is to shift. I hate any tank talk. Yeah, I don't want them tanking.
Yep.
I think it's very clear that they're no longer in any sort of mix that I would be interested in. like whatever mix they're in, it's rancid. But like
We're not
I
baking
don't
anything with that mix.
we are not. I'm not putting that one in the oven. But I do like I think it's very clear that this team isn't going to make the playoffs unless something disastrous happens to one of the other Atlantic teams. And even then I think there's another team in line before them.
Yeah, like
So
four.
it
There's
would
a
have
whole
to
bunch
be
of teams.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would have to be disastrous for like 3 teams at least would have to really
Yeah,
fuck
the
up
New
for the
York City
Habs.
tri-state area would need to sink into the Atlantic Ocean for this to be something the Canadians can attempt.
Exactly. And listen, I'm not cheering for climate change, but if we're gonna join if we're joining the fight against the climate change, whose side are we on? I'm just food for thought. Just food for thought.
You're just saying, Zal.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you 2 questions, Kay. I think I know
Yes.
Ian's answers. Well, I know Ian's answer to the first one. If I tell you the words loser mentality, which team do you immediately think of?
Buffalo Sabres.
Correct.
Buffalo
If
Sabres.
if I tell you perpetual rebuild, which team do you immediately think of?
The Sabres and also Ottawa, I think is what I
There you
think
go.
of. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not
Don't want them.
company you want the Montreal Canadiens to keep. I think, Ian, what about you? I know perpetual rebuild we talked about
Yeah.
the other day. What about loser
Yeah.
mentality?
Buffalo, the Oilers pre-McDavid, like all of these teams that have just been building and building for nothing.
I'll give
Mhm.
you a free one, Toronto in the playoffs.
Yeah, sure.
Get
Yeah,
their
But
that
ass.
no,
tracks.
but
Get
you
'em.
know, this is not company the Montreal Canadiens want to keep. And
No.
you're in danger of doing that if you once again end the season having played a series of games in which you were not a factor, having played a series of games which led you to another top 10 pick and potentially even the same pick that you've had the last 2 years in a row. So I don't want that. I really don't. So for me, I need progress. I don't care if they're sacrificing a top 5 and they're ending up drafting in the top 10 or the top
Mhm.
12 or whatever. I
Mhm.
just need to see more because at this point you're starting to get compared, or you will start to get compared to those teams. Like you cannot end the season the same way you ended the last 2. That's all
Yeah,
I
you
want.
can't lean on that period that you played well in. Like, you can't lean on that as progress. Like, I think you guys on your podcast talk a lot about playing meaningful games. I want them to play meaningful games. Maybe play to keep other teams out of the playoffs. Choose a team you really hate. Be like, we're gonna keep you out.
I have
Or
one. I have one. Ottawa. Let's choose
Yeah.
Ottawa.
Ottawa, Detroit, even like let's just Columbus. Like we can work through the sheer like power of haterism, you know? Like you don't want to get embarrassed. You don't want to be that team like other teams come into the building of and be, oh, that's like a free 2 points. It's free 1 point at least. You don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to talk prospects right now. I don't want to be in Scott
Draft.
Matla's DMs asking him to show up to come to this show and talk the Rocket to me. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah, there are, I believe, 7 more games between now and the trade deadline.
Mhm.
So it seems much longer because it's a month, but the Four Nations 2 weeks off kind of changes the perspective of this. They have 7, like we're looking at 7 more games for these guys to prove their case, and really fewer than that because at some point they're going to have to start making decisions and calls with
Yeah.
teams on guys that they're going to move. So it's disappointing that it ended this way. Let me ask you guys a question. So let's say they finish, just outside the top 10 in the
Mhm.
draft. Is this season a disappointment? Because it kind of feels like it.
Yeah, it will feel like it, but at least you will like we will be able to point to those 2 months as a positive.
Yeah.
We'll be
I
able
think
to point 2 months as having been the start of something.
I think if the 2 months hadn't happened, it wouldn't feel like a failure.
Mhm.
Outside if I was coming into if I went into the draft with the same mentality I had come into the start of the season with, that would not feel like a disappointment. The fact that like after what we saw, I want them like between 10 and 15. Like that's where I want them. Um I'll even take like 12. I'll take top 12. I genuinely thought coming into the season that they were due for a 5th to 10th pick around. Now, when that season started and they went the way they did for the start of the season, I was like, okay, well, I guess we're looking at another 5. Um, so that would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
I think you really have to like grade this team on a scale. And nobody wants to hear that because nobody wants their team to be cups aren't won on a scale. Like there's not a grading curve for winning a cup. Um, and it sucks. Every team has their injuries. Every team has their injuries. You know, you have big injuries even. I remember first when Caden Gooley got injured, the next show or even the show before we really found out just how gnarly that injury was. Laura, I believe you said that a team should not be one injury a team should not be one injury away from not being competitive. And to me, I saw this coming because I also said, I think I was in your replies, and I said that, but this a good team shouldn't be one injury away. This
Yep.
team was really getting it done by committee. When this team was doing well, all 4 lines were rolling. The 3rd line was kind of there, but it was Josh Anderson was doing penalty killing, you know, Brendan Gallagher at that point had slowed down. Um, but he was doing Brendan Gallagher things, you know, he wasn't giving up chances, he was annoying people. Christian Dvorak was there. And that was, you know, you had those kind of lines going, even if they necessarily hadn't figured out the combination of the second line. Like at that point, I think Patrick Laine was doing his stuff on the power play. Um, so it wasn't completely figured out, but you were getting an effort across the entire team. I think defense is such a problem for this team that a big defenseman like that going, I didn't have hope. I think I always thought that pretty much I think the night that it was and it was me being very dramatic, but I also did mean it of being like, if this is a long-term injury, this team, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. Again, it's being done by committee. This team is not very it doesn't have any big superstars. Now, if it's like Ivan Demidov is there, who knows? Maybe he like propels them up the standings by sheerly being like amazing. But Trizak says K compliments Dvorak challenge impossible. Bernardo Sonia says, did you guys know that Christian Dvorak was a goal scorer in juniors?
Yeah, where
We
did
were just
that
talking
go?
about
'Cause
that. We were just talking about
I
that. Go back to Mitch Marner, baby.
yeah, I every time I watch Christian Dvorak, I just all I think of is if he had like NHL average finishing, he'd be an excellent hockey player because he does a lot of other stuff great. It's just like the puck gets on his stick in the offensive zone, and he might as well trying to be play it with his feet. Like that's
Yeah.
he's just not he just can't do it. Like, and that's fine. He does a lot of other stuff well, like
Passes
whatever.
die on
But
his tape recently, though. It's been, I mean,
yeah,
you're also whose tape is aren't passes dying on. I heard your
yeah,
voice in my head even before as I
yeah,
finished that
but
sentence.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know. There's just too much going wrong at this point in the season to be like this is who they are. I think, I don't think that the team that they were when they were on top of the world was who they were. The truth always lies somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's definitely the case for where this team ended up. It's just this goes to show you what will happen if everything stops clicking the way that it needs to all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, other teams do get that. It's just that they have the talent to overcome it,
Yeah.
right? Like they will do ugly wins. We don't see ugly wins here in this market. We
Mm-hmm.
need those. Like good
Mm-hmm.
teams will put together really ugly wins.
Yeah.
And that's something. I tried to look for some stats. I literally just scrolled through and tried to look for some stats that I would like to see before the end of the season. And it got so bleak. It got so bleak that I'm just like, I'm not going to, like, the yardstick is just, please don't draft at 5th again. Please draft higher, lower, later
Oh,
than
draft at
5th.
5th, but win the lottery and move up to 5.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be sick.
Mm-hmm.
Use the
How
2 picks that
funny
you
would that
have.
be?
Use the one that's yours and Calgary's to move up into the top 10, or
And
trade
does
both of
anyone know
those
what's
for
happening with that pick?
No, and I won't until the draft board is finalized in where is it? Where are they holding it this year? I don't even
It's
remember.
decentralized, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
whatever they show on TV as this is the draft order, that's when I'll know when the Canadians pick. Because trades like that should have been illegal. We should not have
Yeah.
had to subject anybody to those terms and conditions on that trade.
I
That's
just think somebody thought it was like they like for shits and giggles. They were like, "Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
It
just see
really
how
felt
many
like
how
Kent
many
Hughes was
conditions I
bored,
can
missed being a
add."
lawyer a little bit. And he was like,
well, it was him and it's Brad Treliving's fault too because he traded that first to Florida and it was conditional, and then he was like, "Well, there's a way we can trade it again to get rid of Sean Monahan." Like that's what that pick is. That's the Sean Monahan pick. So they'll figure out what they do. I'd be kind of surprised if they picked with both of those, to be honest. I really do think that they're gonna move one of those, if not both of those, for immediate help next season.
Yeah, I think they want players, not picks. Like, how
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
talks about trades like that. Yeah. Claire's heading out. Goodbye, Claire. Thank you so much
Bye,
for
Claire.
stopping by. Hi, Claire. Bernardo says, also, I love Hudson. I thought he was good today, but man, he needs to get a shooting coach. Speaking of coaches, we're going to talk coaches versus player. Who is to blame here? Execution strategy. What's happening? But
Everybody.
first, yeah, a spoiler. But first, we're going to hand you off to Andrew in Saint Motel. And this time, I will mute the right thing.
Looking to make awesome memories with your friends? Take some promotional pictures or videos for your business? Check out Saint Motel in Montreal's Sud-Ouest borough. It's an amazing selfie studio located in Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, right next to Inchoo Bijoux. It boasts 12 plus unique decors for you to enjoy and make memories with. Hop into their iconic heart-shaped ball pit or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. Saint Motel can also come to you with mobile decor setups available to rent for events, including setup and takedown, or you can head to lesaintmotel.com right now for more details, or to check out their amazing decors that are always being updated. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out.
We are back. Remember to unmute the right thing. So fun fact, just a side note, I can't hear the ad, which is why I didn't hear that it was muted. So I can never hear the ad. But I've seen, I've obviously the last bit, each bit is different, obviously, but the ending bit, is I can hear Andrew's voice in my head because I've seen it so many times. When I edit the video and I see it, I'm like, I know exactly what he's saying. So thank you, Trizak. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. I deserve my flowers. But who deserves the flowers right now? It's not flowers. Who deserves a cactus that's entirely spikes? Not even any of the good stuff right now from this team. Coach, players?
I think everyone when the power play is doing bad rushes to blame the coach, and I don't know that that's the issue here.
Mhm.
I know, okay, the drop pass on the entry on the power play, right? We all hate it. You know who else does it? The New Jersey Devils, and they're second overall in the league in the power play. I saw them do it in this game, and I went, so it can work.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
not to say that it should work for the Canadiens. There's different personnel on both sides. But so many of the times that they enter the zone, they literally just get inches over the blue line and then try to make a play.
Mhm.
There was two, I forget, it must have been in the third or first period, their first power play, where they would just get over the line and Line A would have it in the very corner of where the blue line meets the boards. And he would just have nothing to do with it because everybody else just scattered and now there's just 3 New Jersey Devils on top of him and it's
Yeah.
okay, I can try to chip this in deep or I'll give them an odd man rush. So
Mhm.
then, most of the time the puck just gets turned over. I just think that they're in their own heads about the zone entry. I think there's only one player who's particularly great at it, and it's Alex Newhook, and he's on the
Speedy.
second unit.
Speedy boy.
Yeah, I would put him on the first unit somehow. Find a way to get him onto that unit because they need him. They need him on that unit to get
Yeah.
the zone. Even if they use him for just the face-off thing, where in overtime they'll put Dvorak out there just for the face-off and then get him off the ice.
Yeah.
Just use him to get the zone entry and then get off the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Goodbye, Alex. Thank you for stopping by. I just Bernardo says the drop pass. Trinka says the drop ass, which is
Yeah,
what
I
made
got
me
him.
laugh. So, got him. Got
Maybe
him.
here's the thing: if the Canadians like had a zapper, I think this was your idea. Like if they had like a
Oh,
little zapper, and if
I
every
was
time there
putting
was a
it on
drop pass,
I was putting it on Yuri Slavkovsky if he ever
all
tries
of
to
them,
make a backhand pass at the blue line. But yeah, now
all of
all of
them,
them. They're
all
all
of them.
wearing a dog collar that zaps them when they can't enter the zone correctly. We're gonna
Mhm.
classically condition them to do this correctly.
I think that's what they need. I think, a lot of it, here's the thing is that I feel like during the season, a lot of times they talk about not having the chance to practice, etc., blah, 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 which is fair, right? They come back to Montreal like a month in advance, and then we have to like pretend that there's things going on to talk about. It really bothers me that they don't have contingency plans. Like they don't have a thing where they look at the team and they go, okay, well this one thing is going wrong. Let's work on it in the little practice time we do have. Or like let's do some video. Like it just seems like that's how a season's supposed to go and nothing is improving. So like
Mhm.
what are you doing? Like are you watching video? Are you doing practices? They're clearly they are. It's just not working.
What do you do here? No. So for me, it's like, again, it's the coward's answer, but it's both. I think the things I can point to specifically the things that I blame the coaching staff for. One, Trizak says,
The
"Okay, I don't
power
want to
play?
fight again." Yes, the power play. Unfortunately, Trizak, I love to fight, so I can't make any promises. But I am calmer now than I was when we first had our interaction, so at least there's that. But the power play, like Laura said, is one of the things that's just not working at this point. It honestly, it technically, if and this is going to be an insane thing, but if Line wasn't getting those one timers, it wasn't working after Line came in either. Like
Mhm.
this, the rest of it wasn't clicking, but because Patrick Line is just so sick and so dope when he's on, it worked.
Right.
But then Line's shot stopped doing. He also stopped doing it. Like it stopped
Yeah.
going in, but he stopped doing it. And it just feels like there's been enough time that there should be something else. Um, and the other thing I don't know if Marty's very good at adjustments. You see this all the time where they go
Mhm.
into, especially those games that they lost like leads in, like the Toronto game, the game, the games.
Yeah,
There's a
any of
bunch, I
them.
can't remember which one. A bunch of them. The ones that they went up in, especially the first period. It was to the point where I was like, maybe they shouldn't score first. How about that? Maybe they chase the game instead. Um, and so I was like, that was one thing that I was like, I don't think Marty's very good at adjusting over because other teams would adjust and they'd come back and have a counter strategy, and the Habs had nothing. Um, and another thing is I just don't know why Marty is so bullish on those lines right now, especially that first line. I don't know if he's handling line A correctly. There's just a few specific things that I now it's also on the players to execute. It really is. Um,
Mhm.
they it's on them to execute, it's on them to look like they give a fuck out there. It's on them to, for example, Slav to shoot when he has a chance. For Christian Dvorak to not let a pass die on his stick, right? Like you have for Cole Caulfield even, who I feel like out of the top line, honestly, the things that those players are known for, so like Slav, play along the board, Nick, being smart, question mark, and then Cole, his goal scoring. If you take only those things, I think Cole is the only one closest to doing the thing he's good at. Like I feel like he's been shooting. If anything, the rest of the game has
There are a
slid.
couple goals too in the last little while, yeah.
Exactly. So I do think that like I just don't know. Those are the things that I'm a little frustrated by, but it is up to the players also to execute. So it's just hard. It's hard because it feels like everybody is just everything is going wrong. Everything is going wrong.
Yeah. And
So
then I think eventually, like, I think this is regression, right? I was looking at this before the game started. The Canadians have like the fifth or fourth highest shooting percentage at 5-on-5. So like they've been very lucky, related to the rest of the league. Right now, it's not going that way. So I
Yeah.
think ultimately we'll get a regression back the other way. It's just how big of a swing is that going to be back in the other direction?
Mhm.
You just have to think of this sort of thing as a pendulum. It always ends up coming back, but like when does it come back and how hard is it going to swing back? Those are different questions. So I think that all of these things, I don't know that necessarily. I don't know that necessarily they need to change a lot of the things that they do. It's just a matter of the pucks are going to start finding their way into the net. You won't get shut out by Jake Allen. Like that's the sort of thing that they can't seem to overcome right now.
Dear God.
we haven't even gotten
Um,
into how embarrassing that part is.
Yeah.
Jeez.
For me, like the situation is that every player's having a bad night, right? Every like we have
Yeah.
complaints about almost every player. So all of them need to do better, but also the coaching staff needs to make different decisions on the power play, for example, or things like that, right? So, I don't think both is a coward's answer. I just think like I think for me, which part of this
Mhm.
are the players and the coach to blame for? And it's different parts. It's not the same.
Sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, Bernardo says, well, Marty said he wasn't changing his system and they won, and now they're losing. Danny Joe says the power play clicked for 1 or 2 games when he was rotating around with Cole. I assume is Line. Once
Line.
Line got those run of awesome shots off, they stopped moving. Yeah, I think that these are, for example, I don't, do you guys think Marty is stubborn?
Yeah. Here's the thing. He got to where he got to. You have to be
Yeah.
stubborn to do that.
There.
I I just think that Marty doesn't like to give up on things. And I don't
Mhm.
know necessarily that that's stubbornness in that he thinks he's right all the time, but I think that his mentality as a player that got him to the point that he was at is sort of what he has as a coach, which
Mhm.
is I'm not giving up on this. I'm not giving up on you guys. I'm not giving up. You're not going to give up on me. We're going to do this the same way. And let's be honest, that worked,
Yeah.
especially with the defensive zone coverage, right? We were talking about the hybrid coverage for a while. That seems like a distant memory, right?
Yeah.
That the players couldn't adapt. Guess what? They adapted and it
Mhm.
worked.
Mhm.
And now that's less of a problem. I quite honestly, less of their issues are in the defensive zone, right? They're not great in the defensive zone right now, but it's not their main concern. Their main concern to me is generating offense. They just
Right.
can't do it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know, like, yes, is he stubborn? Probably, yeah, in a certain respect, but like, I think he kind of has to be
Mhm.
because otherwise, the alternative is as soon as something goes south, we change it, and maybe that's not what's best for this group, especially
Mhm.
because he's coaching a group of players who are hopefully going to be with each other when this team starts to put together successful runs into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like,
Mhm.
I think it's important that um, we understand why he does a lot of the things that he does. Um, you know, I don't think like I'm thinking of him putting Line on the fourth line, which is like if he was playing him with like Pozzetta and Lucas Condata, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's it. That's he's being banished.
Yeah.
But he's playing him with two responsible defensive players who are also pretty strong the other way as well. It's
Mhm.
less of I'm demoting you and more of I want to put you in a situation where I think you might be able to succeed and other people might be able to cover for some of your deficiencies,
Mhm.
right? So it's not unlike, playing when he decided to play Lane Hudson with David Savard at the beginning of his career, right? Like I need to play you with a guy who is a
Classic.
stay-at-home defenseman.
Classic.
That's a classic Marty thing, but he got over that because Lane
Yeah.
played his way out of it,
Yeah.
right? None of these players are playing their way out of this. That's not
Mhm.
helping.
Yeah.
Like at some point it's on these guys, especially the core of this team, which I know we've harped on a lot in this episode, but like
They deserve it.
they deserve it. They get paid a lot of money. And I know Slaps doesn't kick in till next year, but it will. And they
Mhm.
like Cole and Nick make a lot of money. They need to start acting like it. You know, I think these are the moments where you need those guys, and they're not showing up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we are going to keep continuing having that discussion, but one thing I'd like to remind everybody is we are going to be moving into the overtime segment very soon. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. If you have a question disguised as being really mad, even do that. We'll be mad with you. And if you're watching and enjoying, be sure to like the video. We really appreciate that. We are all slaves to the algorithm, and we are trying really hard to build something really special here at Game Over. And I feel like we're creating some really great content. Just quickly, I do want to, obviously with the break, we're not going to be, so this isn't the last game for the Habs, obviously. Tomorrow it's Mark who's going to be hosting. But I'm not going to be seeing you guys again for a little bit, but we do have some things planned. Hopefully, we don't want to completely go cold turkey in this little time. So stay tuned. Stay tuned in this space. And honestly, if you want anything specifically, I'm always open to suggestions. I'm on social media. I am way too much on social media, so you can reach out to me.
Aren't we
I am
all?
too. Laura, you are very good at not being as online as I am.
I was saying, yeah, Laura's great. We both need to touch a little bit more grass, I
I
think.
think we do. I think we do.
Yeah.
At this point, it's touched snow, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's fine
Yeah,
too.
that's fine
It's
too.
outside. Just get
It's
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually
Get
funny.
out.
I have the self-care.
Get out
Yeah.
now.
Yes. No, it's actually really funny. There was I have the self-care app to help me do things like an adult. It's very cute, but also one of the things I have is one of the things I need to do. So it's like, oh, wash your face, take your medication, just to help those things. But then one of them is step outside for even a minute. And that genuinely really helpful. Really helpful, guys. Go outside if you are able to, if the world allows. Um, Adam Firebear thought you had a very thoughtful answer to that, Ian. Which reminds me what the question was. To me, I think you have things like, um, I think of one of the things, Josh Anderson, first line. That is one of those things that he was so stubborn about, that Marty was so stubborn about. But I think we don't see that same amount of stubbornness anymore. And I think this is one of those moments where we really remember that he's learning on the job. And I think there's certain things that he's still stubborn about, but I feel like he's starting to know when to choose his battles. Um, but talking about stubborn things, I was really strong, like hard-headed going to this game and being like, that Mayu and Hudson pairing is going to be a tire fire. I thought they were okay.
They were good. They were
Yeah?
good. I mean, they were on the ice for a couple goals against, but like whatever.
Who
They're
wasn't?
both very young players. Yeah,
Yeah.
who wasn't?
Who was it?
But like yeah, I thought they were good. I thought Mayu was pretty great defensively. The goals that they were on the ice for were not his fault. He was trying to get back into a play to break up to get in a shooting lane. But they were turnovers elsewhere on the ice. I thought they were fine. I'd like to see him again on Sunday, to be honest. I thought that they were fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you heard about that, like, what percent did you think it was going to work? Because I'm
Oh,
on the record as saying -5.
yeah, it was not. I was like, oh, so they're gonna give up 100 goals, and
Yeah.
that's how we're gonna lose. I hope we score 90, at least keep it close. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
question.
totally.
Question. When you first saw the two pairings, which one did you think would be more of a disaster class? The Matheson and Mayu pairing or the Hudson and Mayu pairing?
Hudson and Mayu for sure.
Yeah,
You think
same.
so?
Just because they don't
Sure,
have that
yes.
veteran. Yeah, they don't have that veteran presence, and apparently they didn't need it. I
Yeah.
didn't. And the flip side of that, I thought Matheson Carrier would be good, and it kind of wasn't. Like it was a very blah pair.
Yeah.
We tricked you into
I
talking
really like
about Mike
Hudson and
again,
Carrie.
Ian.
I really liked Hudson and Carrie. That other
Yeah.
game where they were together.
Yeah.
I
It
feel
just
like
goes to show you,
Carrier is
Go
like
ahead.
he's a load-bearing defenseman.
Yeah.
Do not move this wall. Do not knock down this pillar. He's a load-bearing wall.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly who he is.
it just goes to show you, like, it's less about Caden Gooley, the player, and more about the role that he played on this team, and how now that he's gone, we've had different pairings every game because there's no other option. They literally traded for Carrier to give Gooley a partner who could play on the right side, and now that he's gone, they're like, oh shit! Like, what? We need to figure out another thing to do. Struble, fine. Mayu, you come up. Like none of. They're just out. Dudes are just out here trying things at this point.
And you know how you pointed out
if they traded for a lefty to play with Carrier now.
That would be hilarious. That would be so funny.
And then Carrier gets hurt, and they get a righty, and then it just keeps moving back and forth.
Sorry.
Hughes is like, I cannot. Hughes is like, I cannot make any moves anymore, guys. At that point, he starts associating trades with injuries. He's like, if I trade a guy, another guy gets hurt. Should I keep doing that? So then we have the most trade. Yeah. Then we have the most trade phobic GM in the league. No, but I thought so. Shit, I had something to say. Yes, I just wanted to introduce. I know that's also how the Habs played. Oh, I had something to play. But one thing I wanted to introduce to our audience who aren't Locked On Canadiens listeners, do you guys want to explain the Matheson scale to our?
Yeah, this was born from, I forget what game it was. But anyway, this season I've sort of come to the conclusion that you can often tell what kind of game Mike Matheson is going to have from like his first and second shift. And at the beginning, it was just like he'd play 2 shifts, and I go, "This is going to be a good Matheson game. He looks great," or a bad Matheson game. There was one game, I think it was the last one against New Jersey. Come to think of it, and he was terrible. He gave up the puck on the game-winning goal for New Jersey. And I wanted to make our thumbnail for the next day say Tragic Mike, but I thought it was too mean, as a play on Magic Mike. I thought it was too mean, so I left it off. But then I mentioned it, and everyone was like, no, that's hilarious. So now we've made a meter that we put up on the screen, and we try to figure out if Mike was Magic Mike or Tragic Mike. And we rate him on a scale of 1 to 5 for that day. We've had very close to a full Magic Mike, and we also had a Tragic Mike already. And the first game we did it was he was like fine, so we said he was Static Mike, and that's probably what he was this time around.
Love that. I also do think it was Static Mike today, which is a rare state of that's a rare Pokemon, kind of like Magic. You have both Magic and Tragic Mike at the same level. I think Magic Mike happens tiny bit more, but
yeah, I think so.
I think so too, but same-ish level.
Mike.
The Static Mike is a very rare commodity. We better treasure him when we have him.
I feel like it's only happened 3 or 4 times this entire season. I think everything else is either he's awesome or unplayable. Those are the 2 scales for Mike Matheson.
Yeah.
If he ever gets traded, we need to gift the Mike meter to whoever.
To hand it over to whoever Locked On podcast.
Yeah, whatever
just
Locked On
forward
gets
it.
next. Yeah.
Yeah. No, okay, one thing that's actually really been bothering me that I wanted your guys' thought on, and I know all 3 of us are people who are very much on the thought of we should be nicer to Mike Matheson, I think, is
I think we should just stop running him out of town. I'm not asking for too much. We should,
Here's the thing. I'm gonna shift us over to OT because I think we're in the talking about random shit at this point. I mean, entire podcast been a bit of that, but I think we got some good categories, which is new for me. You guys are very good at that, staying on topic. Not my general. I think it's because you guys have to, right? With Locked On Canadiens, you have a limited amount of space, so you need to get which is, you guys keep me humble. But for me, one thing is, so after that game, the New Jersey game, I'm sure there were a few insane people online, as is tradition, who were being insane about Mike Matheson. I thought for the most part, the general reaction to Mike Matheson was negative, and I think it was one of those moments of we can be a little nicer to Mike Matheson, but I don't think it was to the point where now it wasn't even just the French broadcasts who were doing it, like, who also saw, like, I don't know what things look like on that side of the media or that side of the fan base necessarily, but I Googled, Twitter Translate only goes so far. But but one thing that I kept seeing, and I kept seeing broadcasts talk about it over and over again, they were like, people are being so rough on Mike Matheson. They need to be nicer. And it bothered me a little bit because I don't think people were that mean to Mike Matheson. I think it's one of those moments where, again, the Montreal fan base is really misrepresented, and it bothered me a lot. What's your point of view of that?
I think it's another instance of the mainstream media being 2 months behind on what's going on the internet. Because there was a time, I mean, I see it in our comments a lot of times, like, they need to trade this guy. They need to trade this guy. And our answer is always, who are they going to replace him with?
Mhm.
Literally, who's going to play those minutes? Once
That's
you
always
have an
the
answer
question.
for that, yes, you can go ahead and trade him. But I think the other thing too is that, like, we aren't that hard on him as much anymore. I think that 2 months or 1.5 months or whatever we want to call it, I think that did wonders for Mike Matheson because everyone stopped talking about trading him,
Yeah.
and now we kind of talk about him a little bit more normally. Yes, we do. We are hard on him sometimes, but I'm seeing a lot less of the trade Mike Matheson than I was seeing when the Canadians were bad for the first 2 months of the season, two and a half.
Mhm.
Um, I'm seeing a lot less of that, and I think we've kind of gotten a little bit more stable as a fan base on Mike Matheson. But with the broadcast being like they need to be nicer and stuff like that, I think sometimes we just need to not talk about Mike Matheson. Is the thing. I think maybe we don't talk about him unless it's egregiously bad or he's really good. On our show we have to talk about him every day because we have the bit and we want to
Yeah.
keep the bit going. So uh, at one point, Ian tried to start a bit where how many days we can go. We had a meter of how many days we could go without talking about Mike
That didn't
Matheson,
go
but
very
I just
yeah.
kept bringing him
It
up.
would get to one
So
and we'd set it back to zero. Like
yeah,
it was impossible because he plays too dang much.
My favorite
yeah.
was the one where you guys, like, went almost an entire episode without it, and then, like, Laura was like, "We went the episode without mentioning Mike Matheson," and I was like, "That's a Mike Matheson mention," or
Yeah.
I know. I was like, to me, that should have been a freebie because we didn't actually say anything about him. I just said that we didn't mention
I
him, but
do
Ian
agree
did not
with
get
you,
it.
but in
I
the
did not get off on that
technicalities
technicality.
but in the technicalities of technicalities, that is not, in the
Yeah,
Calgary Flames pick trade conditions of things, that's
Yeah.
not
Here
yeah.
here's the thing with Mike Matheson. He got here in a trade with a guy for a guy who was already the whipping boy on this team, right?
Mhm,
In Jeff Petrie. Jeff Petrie
mhm.
became that guy. I think mostly after Zach Cassian ran over Sam Montembeault and he did nothing about it. And then from that point
For
on,
me,
and
that was a bit
it's
of a turning point, I think, too.
for sure. And it stinks because his tenure before that, he was
Yep,
a model Montreal Canadian. Like he was a
yep.
great guy to have around this team. He was a great player. And that team
Great
just kind
meme,
of broke
too.
his
The red
spirit.
eyes, great meme.
Yeah. Yeah. But that season just broke that dude's spirit. Like he
Mhm,
was not only how bad they were on the ice, but like he couldn't be around his family because of the COVID shutdowns. So like
mhm,
it stinks that that's how it ended for Jeff Petrie, but that's how Mike Matheson got here.
mhm.
And then one of our first memories of Mike Matheson as a Montreal Canadian is the Canadians tweeting out "Guess who" with eyeball emojis, and we all thought it was about a Cole Caulfield extension, and instead it's Mike Matheson with a phone in the locker room tweeting from the Canadians Twitter account, and everybody was so mad. Everybody was so angry because we convinced ourselves it was a Cole Caulfield thing, and it had nothing to do with him. Mike Madison has been set up for failure from the very beginning of when he got here. Um, and if I'm Kent Hughes, when the time comes to finally trade him for a forward so we can forget any of this happened. A
Yeah, yeah,
goalie, anything other than another defenseman who's going to
yeah,
play a lot. Because I think
yeah.
we need to
It's the
break the curse
curse.
now. Yeah,
It's
we
the
need to
curse.
break the curse now.
You just reminded me of that time where everybody was so annoying about every single thing the Canadians tweeted. The replies
Yeah.
would be extend Caulfield, extend Caulfield,
Yeah.
extend Caulfield. At a
Announce
certain bit,
Caulfield extension.
yeah, at a
Yeah.
certain bit, like it was a good bit for a little bit, and then the bit became like, I I don't think you guys are doing it ironically anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone needs to shut up. I just like that was I completely agree. That was a very that was a very rough time. The fact that like there was really not much going on for the team, and all anybody wanted was a Cole Caulfield extension, and they just wouldn't do it.
And the thing that pissed me off is I didn't really worry about the extension.
I think I was super chill about it because I didn't think that it was ever going to be a situation where he asked for too much money. Because he deserves the money that he got, right? In fact,
Probably
he's going to
deserves
look like a
more.
bargain. Yeah, he's going to look like a bargain by this time next year, you know? And so for me, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna
Same.
have to keep talking. I'm muted apparently. I can't
Oh,
figure
we'll
it
vamp
out.
for
So
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Look, I just to bring it back to Matheson, like we've all just decided that he's a guy that we can tolerate zero mistakes from, and that's just not fair. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to anybody else on this team who makes mistakes. Lane Hudson makes a lot of mistakes every night. You want to know why? He has the puck the entire time. Like it's just a numbers game. He's gonna draw. He's gonna miss it. The puck's gonna bobble. He's gonna make a bad choice every so
He
often.
plays like
Like we
600
don't.
minutes a
We
game. You
yeah.
can't.
Matheson actually in against New Jersey on Saturday played less than 19
Wow.
minutes, which is not something he usually
Maybe that's why
does.
he was static.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough of him. He had 23 total shifts, which was just about what everybody else got, but ice time wise, he was a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's got to cool it. That's what I tried. That's kind of why I wanted to do the tragic Mike or magic Mike bit, was to not only point out the nights that he was doing poorly, but to
Yeah.
also remind people that this is a really exceptional hockey player that we're all
Yep.
way too hard on.
Yeah.
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 I think also like there is something to be said about, and I usually don't like these narratives, but there is something to be said about the fact that like francophone players do get a little bit more thrown at them. Even I know that as somebody who doesn't
Yeah.
speak French, like I've seen it, right? So I do think there's something to be said about people being a little harsher on him because he can understand them. Like, also I'd like to
What did Brian
apologize to
Burke say? Brian Burke said that the Canadians GM job is the hardest in the league because you're a moron in French and in English. So that's sort of the deal, right? Like at least
Yeah.
if you're like Slavkovsky, if they're talking about you in French, you could just be like, I don't speak French. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go out of my way
I
to
don't
read
know.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like
congrats.
to apologize to
I ain't reading all
everybody.
that.
Sorry, I'd like to apologize to everybody for cutting out. Also, my audio is probably worse right now, but I figure you guys would rather hear me worse than not hear me at all.
Facts.
So yes. Thank you, Laura and Ian, for for keeping that going. Because if that was a solo show, I would just be doing charades over here. We got a few questions, and then we will wrap up things because I have kept these guys very long. But it's just a fun conversation, and I'm gonna pretend that this is like the next, like this entire week. Um, like divide how much extra time I took into the days that you guys do your podcast, and you guys can stay on. Like I know you can't film, but like you can stay on a little bit longer and like have those conversations. You know, I'm having fun, so I want you guys to have that fun too, which I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys talk outside of when you work. Like, I'm sure
No,
you.
actually, Laura and I actually hate each other off camera.
Yeah.
We're like oil and water. We just don't
This is
talk
all
at all.
fake.
Yeah, no, it's just we're just consummate professionals. That's all it is.
Yeah. We
Very
show up
good.
exactly like at the time we're supposed to record, and no words. We just start recording, and then no words
Yeah.
after that. We just. Yeah.
And you guys fake it really well when somebody else is a guest. You know, yeah. I can tell you guys that they fake it very well when somebody else is a guest. So Wendy Hardy gives a question, or asks a question. Wendy Hardy asks a question. Do you think there's a chance we can keep both Evans and Armia, or do you think Dvorak and Savard not offer enough for good returns? Well, I think it'd have to be somebody else than just Dvorak and Savard if we do actually want things this trade deadline.
You have to like. Here's the thing: you have to give to get. Why do
I
teams
don't
sell?
want to give.
I know. Teams sell so that they don't lose the player for nothing in the off season, right? And there
Yeah.
are some players you have no choice but to do that because they don't have value on the trade market. So if you're not out there trying to get value for these players who could walk in the off season and who most likely will because you haven't signed them up until that trade deadline, like if you're not trying to get value, you're not doing your job. So I don't think there's a chance that they get kept unless the Canadians come to an agreement on a new contract with them, which we haven't heard that much about talk since there was this, like, Renaud, I think it was Renaud Lavoie that reported it a few months ago, and then we haven't heard back from that.
Yeah, I I don't know. I don't know. I think I'd like to keep both of them, just because
Really like them.
they yeah
Yeah.
they make up the two forward positions on their top power penalty kill unit. And next year, if they're not here, that means you have an entirely new forward penalty kill unit and likely only one returning defenseman on that top penalty kill unit because David Savard's likely gone as well. So, like, while I understand
Josh
the
Anderson, you're
idea,
forgetting Josh Anderson, but he's
this is
not.
true too.
Yeah,
I think he's the second unit, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's very clear, and he's been great. Don't get me
He's been
wrong,
great,
but
yeah.
it's very clear that Evans and Armia are the top dogs on that penalty kill, and as they should be. They're incredible.
They earned
You
it.
know,
And a penalty
they-
kill that's still good.
yeah,
Even
Right?
with
Like,
the
they're.
fact,
I
it's been
yeah,
good all season.
I think they're top 5 in the NHL in shorthanded
Yeah.
goals. Like
There you go.
they're a good unit. So even if they're not, if you get them to a point at the trade deadline where even if you don't have them signed, but you feel pretty confident that you'll be able to get it done, maybe you keep them, unless someone sends you a deal that you can't refuse. Because I think like trading them, like if they're like, we'll give you a second round pick for Jake Evans, is that worth doing at this point in the Canadiens rebuild? I don't really know.
I don't think
Someone says
so.
yeah, second round pick
I'll
is
give you I'll give you a third for Yoel Armia. It's like, okay, maybe in the future I can get a player like Yoel Armia. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, at what point do you just say like, no, we'll just keep these guys and see if we can work out a deal with them? Savard and Dvorak, no, like do not keep them. But remember, the Canadiens only have one retention spot left.
Yeah.
So they have to be wise with how they spend that. They need to maximize it in order to get one of those guys out the door.
Mhm.
I really struggle with the idea that they're not coming back with both those forwards next year. At least one of them.
I really struggle with that too. I like obviously I really like them, so I struggle with it in general. But I think in like just in terms of strategy, it really Trinka says a boat is a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of what you're risking. Like, yeah, Owen Beck came up, and I think he's been wonderful these last
He's
three
been good.
games, I want to say. I
Yeah.
think he's been good.
Yeah.
I think, especially compared to the rest of the team, it's not hard to look very good. I think he's got the sheer enthusiasm keeping him going, frankly. And the try hard, I think, works for him. But we've had instances where he's been, and I'm just using him as an example. I'm not, he's just an example. I'm not picking on him. But we've had instances where he's come up and not really made a difference. So I see people say all the time, oh, we need to vacate that spot for a guy like Owen Beck, and by that spot, I mean the fourth line spot. And I'm like, next year, these guys are going to compete. There is no if, ands, or buts. If they're not competing, this is a problem. Like there's bigger problems that they have than the fourth line center. But if they're competing, you need a steady force. Like you do need it's the mystery box thing, Like, yeah, Owen Beck could be a boat, but we got boats. We got boats at home. We got boats at home.
You have boats at home.
Yeah,
we don't
we
fly
do.
boats.
We have boats at home is very funny to me. That's very good.
Thank you. So Adam Firebear, who also says, y'all are amazing and I love these crossovers. Thank you so much. We love having you here. Also asked, speaking of Brian Burke, one time I heard him say that Patrick Laine was a talented superstar, but a liability when he's on the ice. I'm a huge fan of Laine and thrilled he's a Hab. What are your thoughts?
I mean,
is Patrick Laine unique in that assessment?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. That's just a guy.
I don't know. Is Artemi Panarin a particularly strong defensive player? Let's look around here.
Also, his job is not defenseman. Can we just talk about that
No.
for a second? That's not his job. His job is not defenseman. His job is not penalty killer.
Which is why right now he's struggling, because he's not doing his actual job, which is scoring. But again, I'd like to remind everybody, nobody is. This team has gotten shut out, 3 times in the last, 10 days. At
Twice
least
on they
twice,
haven't
at
scored
least
a
twice.
they haven't scored a goal on home ice in 3 games.
I feel bad. I feel bad
Yeah.
for the
That
Bell
makes me
Center.
sad.
They don't deserve
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nope.
Particularly
Especially
this weekend when all the families took their kids, like
Yes, there's a bunch of kids there who are like, "Man, maybe I won't be a hockey fan." Like that's what
or
just
they're gonna
happened.
start cheering for the New Jersey Devils. Who wants that?
No. Jesper
Yeah.
Bratt, Also, man, that guy. Stop it. That's all I got for him. Stop.
Stop.
Yeah, he's like there was one season where the Canadians, I got to see them twice down in New Jersey where I think in those 2 games, Alex Radulov had 7 points combined between the 2 games. That's what Jesper Bratt is doing to the Canadians every
Yes.
time he plays them.
Jeff
So
Skinner.
like
Very Jeff
it's
Skinner.
unreal. Yes, it's very
Yeah.
Jeff Skinner. It's unreal
so-
what he's doing to this team.
Essentially, he's breeding a bunch of Jesper Bratt / New Jersey Devils fans in Montreal.
Gross.
We do not need this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're so right, Ian. In the last 3 games that they've been at home, they've scored 1 goal. So that's not good. We got a question here from Bernardo who asks, "What would you give up for Noah Dobson?" I'm just gonna be honest, I don't know much about the player, so if you guys have thoughts about that.
Yeah.
We did talk about it, but I
Okay.
can't remember what we said. Ian, do you remember what we said? It was on
Yeah,
our mailbag
I think-
episode.
No,
our
I
latest
think you guys
episode.
might have talked about Cousins. I don't know if you guys
We
talked
talked
about.
about
No, we
Cousins.
did Cousins,
Oh.
and then
We
we talked
talked
about
more
Ryan
about
Leonard and
potentially
Noah
offer
Dobson.
sheeting Dobson, more
Oh,
so than
yeah.
trading
Oh,
for him. Because he would be
yes.
offer sheet eligible. Trade wise, like I don't know. Could you fire like a first round pick in Logan Mailloux and call it a day?
Mhm.
Like would the Islanders take that deal? I'm really confused by the Islanders. I don't know what Lou Lamoriello is doing. The dude needs to just give up. I don't know.
I was gonna
I don't
say,
know
if you
what his
call
retired.
plan is.
Lou after his bedtime, which I'm sure is at like 6, because he's very old, I'm sure you could trick him into taking something not like not a
Yeah.
lot, you know.
Yeah, you could probably trade David Savard there for the whole beard thing and just be like, Lou, don't you want to just get rid of this whole thing? Like, I know you're like so
Look at
stoked.
him. Look at him. Don't you want to
Yeah,
gently cradle his face and shave him yourself?
yeah. I do think Noah Dobson solves a lot of problems for the Canadians because next year they'll only really have Carrier and um I think just Carrier actually on right defense. Realistically, Mayu could be there, but Savard won't. And maybe Reinbacher's there. So they're going to need
Maybe.
to add another right shot defenseman. That's the kind of player who you've been accumulating assets to go get.
Mhm.
I wouldn't raid the cupboard for him, so to speak, but you could give up quite a bit and
Mhm.
and go after a player like that. I wouldn't mind.
What's your opinion on like what he would like? Where does he slot in on the lineup in terms of pairing? Like second?
He's probably the top right pair defenseman on
Mm.
this team if he steps
On this
in.
team,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, no question. And then that's kind of nice because then you have him on the first pair with maybe Hudson. Second pair is Carrier Gouli when Gouli comes back, and then you can bring in Reinbacher or Mayu kind of slowly on the third pair, right? Like
You
that allows
forget
you to.
Matheson? No, you
No,
have
Matheson's
Matheson.
lefty. He'll play on the other side. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
unless they get rid
sorry.
of him, but he'll be on the left. Yeah, yeah. No, the left will be like Hudson, Matheson, Gouli.
I was like, it's very
in
not
some
you
order.
to, yeah, it's like it's very not you to forget Mike Matheson, so I must
No.
have turned my brain off.
No, just don't play him on the right side anymore. Like we need to
Yeah.
stop that. We need to give up that ghost. It's over.
Mm-hmm. Trinka says, and I believe this is in, I can't remember what this is in, but it's eternal. Trinka said, not Habs organization setting fans up for disappointment. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Bernardo says he's 6'4" and scored 70 points last season. Pretty sure he's top pairing. I told
Yeah.
you I don't know the man.
Yeah,
I told
he
you.
scored 70 on a terrible Islanders team. Like he's
That
an
is-
he's an exceptional talent that you should throw a
That
bunch
would
of assets
solve
to
our
go get.
question. That would solve the question that we keep having, like who's going to play top pair? Who's going to play top pair? He's going to play
Yeah.
top pair. Can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, they're shopping. I don't know. Ooh, who's the Devils guy that everybody keeps saying to go after?
Simon Nemitz.
Yes.
He played in this game. I didn't
I didn't
really
know.
notice him,
I
but
didn't
I
notice
wasn't particularly looking for him. to be quite
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
I would think that they'd go after a more established guy like a Dobson
I
than
would think so as well.
Yeah.
right? Because like if they're okay, well, we can keep we can go get Nemitz, or we can just like see how Reinbacher and Mayu pan out. Why would
Yeah.
I trade the out? You know what I mean? Like they'd want to get the sure thing in a guy like Dobson as opposed to another lottery ticket in one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah. He's buddies with Slav,
100%.
Bernardo says, so that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, but we
Trinka,
can't just get people's buddies. We can't. Some people's
that's how we ended up with
buddies.
that's how we ended up with Mishar, who I don't know what to expect from. I think that's one of the things I'd like to talk to Scott about. Scott Matla, if you're watching.
Scoot Mortla, come on the show.
Scott's malted.
Trinka says that was in reference to Mike Matheson tweet that everybody wanted to be the
Yeah.
captain.
Yeah.
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 Trinka also asked, what are we looking for in return for players at the trade deadline? So I believe probably like position wise, I believe that's what we're asking, or trades. I mean draft picks. What are we looking?
I personally want to pick at a prospect.
Yeah. I don't really care what position. Obviously, like I think if you can get right shot defensemen, go grab them. Teams aren't really moving on from those super easy though.
Why not?
Yeah, go figure. It's a valuable commodity in the National Hockey League, which is why it's so funny that Montreal was able to trade Justin Barron for Alex Carrier, a guy who could not establish himself in the National Hockey League, for a right shot defenseman who will just plug into your lineup and be a perfect player for your team. Like Ken Hughes does not get enough love for that trade. As
No,
much
that
as
was a good one.
we were really
was a good
hoping
one.
Justin Barron would have panned out. Like the fact that this is what happened is great. Picks really don't do as much for me in this upcoming draft because, like I said, those would just be ammunition for further trades, and like it's not much to get excited about.
I feel like if a team is trading picks, it's probably not a high enough pick that you can use it very valuably. So to me, it's prospects and players that I'm looking at. I don't necessarily know if picks are very useful, because I think, like we're talking about again, the timeline, we really want them to start seriously competing next year. I think that I don't necessarily know if the team wants to wait on a magic bean,
Yeah.
Yeah, trick ass players or
Yeah.
picks or prospects. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael Hage is sort of like the line, the marker you put on the grocery conveyor belt to like separate your groceries. Michael Hage is that line. Anything after him, and I'm like, that's trade ammunition. Like that's not a guy who's gonna play here. So like Michael Hage is the last guy in, and then from there it's, that's sort of thing that I'm looking at. How are we trading this guy to get another scorer who can play on this team?
Bernardo says, would you trade Evans for Justin Barron in a second? I will ban you. I will ban you. I will ban you. And it won't be an accidental ban. It wouldn't be an accidental ban. So, okay.
Yeah.
I think we are done here. We talked a lot for a game that was not very good, because I've been dying to have both Ian and Laura on. When I reached out to them, that was back when the Canadiens were winning. If that tells you how long it's been. Okay, so once again, folks, tomorrow it will be Mark. I'm sure he will trade somebody, because Mark loves trading. Thank you so much. I hope the rest of your day is wonderful. And again, you can always, sorry, I almost turned on the outro for a second, but you can always find Laura and Ian at Locked On Canadiens. And do you guys want to tell them a little bit more, individual socials or Locked On Canadiens in general?
Yeah, we're Locked On Canadiens just about everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky. I'm at Maybe It's Ian. You can find me on Blue Sky, mostly posting about mostly nonsense, but sometimes hockey's on there too.
Good stuff. Good poster.
Thank you.
And you can find me at the Active Stick, but really Locked On Canadiens on all the things.
Yeah. Just for the record, they are no longer on Twitter. I don't think you guys are using Twitter anymore. So everywhere else you can find them. You can perhaps even write a letter and I don't know, send it with a pigeon. Maybe it'll find Laura. I don't know. Is it pigeon season? I don't know. Is pigeon season all the seasons? Anyways, all their info will be in the description box. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are watching this later as a replay, thank you so much. And leave us a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. I think we had some really interesting discussions. So goodbye. Enjoy your Saturday, rest of it.